Welcome. I'm Linnea Nelson, a spiritual director and a volunteer for our UU Spiritual Direction Network, which is a network of spiritual directors with strong links to our UU faith and who uphold UUSDN's commitment to providing trained spiritual directors, which are also sometimes called companions, guides, and mentors for anyone seeking spiritual deepening, no matter where you are right now on that continuum. We companion those who are new to thinking about their spiritual lives to those who are ordained ministers. You are likely somewhere on this continuum, and we welcome you to this conversation. It's a time to explore the practice of spiritual direction. Now, spiritual direction is a way to listen to your soul, a way to connect with who you are and how you are called to be in this world. I invite you to take a deep breath, to be fully present to this opportunity to learn about spiritual direction. I offer you a few questions as you begin this process. How do you come to us today? What is on your heart? What are you yearning for? What are your uncertainties? What are your griefs and your joys? You might want to take a moment to think about that, or put your hand on your heart and feel what comes up for you. And when you're ready, turn the video back on. Now, a core value of spiritual direction is spiritual hospitality. Whatever you bring today, however you come and however you are in this moment, know that you are welcome here. You will be observing actual, unrehearsed spiritual direction sessions to try to show you the breadth and the depth of spiritual direction. Keep in mind that these are short vignettes from longer sessions, and recognizing that every session is unique and every spiritual director and seeker move together in a rhythm that is based on where the seeker is on their own path. In the spirit of hospitality, we invite you to observe this exploration at your own pace. Pause the video whenever you want, perhaps to respond to a question a spiritual director asks, or just to take time for overall reflection, meditation, or prayer. Maybe you want to take time to write or to draw, or even take time to sing or stretch and move your body. Do whatever you need to do to make this time yours, a time for learning about a way to care for your soul. You deserve time to attend to your own yearnings, to find what's meaningful in your life, to connect with the divine within and around you, and perhaps to determine what words you use to describe what is greater than yourself. All of that is welcome in spiritual direction. We hope you can find the time to care for your soul in these challenging times. Welcome to the exploration of spiritual direction as a tool for all Unitarian Universalists to explore your own life and to delve into what is most important to you. Welcome to this sacred process of spiritual direction and companionship. Welcome.
The essence of spiritual direction is talking with someone who has experience in supporting people like you on their spiritual journeys so that you can get support for your journey. Hey, I'm Reverend Laura Horton Ludwig. I'm a UU minister and spiritual director. And today, two of my colleagues and I are going to share with you a little bit about what is this thing called spiritual direction. So let's start with what is it not? Spiritual direction is not about someone directing you, as in telling you what to do. That's actually the opposite of what spiritual direction is about. Instead, it's all about supporting you as you listen to your own self, your mind, your heart, your body, your spirit, and to the holy as you understand it. So you can connect with more peace, more strength, more joy, more clarity, more compassion, and wonder in your life. That's what spiritual direction is about. So, okay, how does it work? Let's talk about what happens in a spiritual direction session. Typically, you'll probably meet for about an hour a month, and some people always meet with clients online or by phone. Some always meet in person, and some do both. Each practitioner works a little bit differently, but here's how I work with clients. At the beginning of a session, after we say hello, I'll usually invite you to start with some silence so that you can settle in and just take a moment to notice whatever in you might be asking for your attention in that moment. Sometimes you might show up already knowing what you want to talk about, and that's great. But if not, that's fine too. So we'll be sitting in silence. And then whenever you're ready, you just start talking about whatever is on your mind and heart. Now, it doesn't have to be like super officially spiritual, though it may be. You can also talk about work or relationships or anything really. Only in spiritual direction, I'll invite you to explore how whatever it is affecting you on the inside or how it connects to your sense of spirituality. Mostly, I'll be listening and occasionally asking a question. Sometimes I might invite you to take a little silence to reflect on something you just said so that you can check in with your intuition for guidance. You can also try out different spiritual practices during a spiritual direction session. For example, in my own practice with my clients, we might explore a dream that you had, or pull an oracle card or a tarot card, or we might do a shamanic journey to explore a situation in your life. But here's the most important thing. In a spiritual direction session, there is nothing you have to do or not do. We are here just to listen to your life and to the voice of your intuition. We're here to listen to your soul and to the voice of the divine, if that word resonates with you. We're here to listen to that place in you that feels awe, that is touched deeply by both beauty and suffering, and that yearns for a deepening connection to something bigger than yourself. For me, that's what spiritual direction is all about.
Well, welcome, Jan.
Thank you, Darcy.
It's good to have a chance to be with you today. And so Jan and I haven't worked together before, but we know each other, and
Yeah.
um, we are just gonna see what emerges here today.
See what emerges. I like that.
Yeah. So would it feel all right to begin with some silence?
I would welcome that. Thank you.
Okay. So why don't we'll just take as long as you need. And when you notice sort of what's emerging, you can just go ahead and begin with whatever's emerging for you today.
Thank you.
Thank you for the silence, Darcy. You know, what I noticed during the silence emerging really within my body is this awareness of my body and my recent experience just, 10 days ago of being surprised by a COVID diagnosis. I've had all my shots and I try to do all the right things and all of that sort of thing, but still, I tested positive for COVID and I thought, well, this shouldn't be that big a deal. It should be pretty mild. And I guess on the whole, in the larger scheme of things, you would say it was mild, but it hung on for a good 10 days. And, there were a few days kind of in the middle where I just finally couldn't do much. And I felt uncomfortable with that. Maybe uncomfortable isn't the right and most honest word. I felt like there was something wrong, not necessarily, with me physically, but something wrong. And this is so hard to even put words to, but recognizing that this has been, a horrific experience for so many people, and so many people lost their lives. And why can't I just slow down for a few days and kind of let my body do the work it needs to do? I had a hard time doing that. It felt wrong somehow to just kind of stop. And so I've been pondering that for a few days, but I'm not really sure. I'm not really sure what is untended within me and what I really haven't faced. There seems to be with me, as someone who counsels other people, I will counsel other people to listen to their body and to rest and to, revel in the invitation to rest. But I have a harder time doing that for myself, with myself. And I'm wondering if it's a lack of patience with myself. And if that is the case, if those are the right words, why is that? And why have I not noticed this more deeply before? And what lessons am I turning an ear to and not hearing? So those are just kind of a bunch of questions I've been asking myself. But I really was surprised. And then I was surprised again during the 10-ish days, and I think today is day 10, uh, surprised at um, the need to be kind of slowing the pace and then also my resistance to that.
Yeah, yeah.
Is it pride? Is it lack of humility? I can go down a long list of,
Sure,
ways
sure.
that might indict myself spiritually.
Uh, yeah. I think this is a wonderful um sort of looking back, right? Now that you're and how is your body today? How are you doing today?
Better than for the past 10 days, actually. Although, still noticing some places within me that just don't feel quite as energetic or quite as rested as I might. So I still feel the traces, I guess you would
Sure.
say, fatigue,
Yeah,
not
yeah,
nearly as it was before.
yeah, yeah. And how is your spirit today? Are you still feeling that restless impatience, or has that passed?
Hmm, that's a good question. I think it has pretty much passed, now that my body is feeling more like myself. And now that, the calendar says, it's been 10 days. So it's sort of like a feeling of almost a feeling of freedom, and gratitude that, my body did get through because, we can't really ever take for granted that our
Mhm.
bodies will always do what they've done before.
Freedom and gratitude.
Yeah.
So, as you think back to this moment that you remember, or these 3 days that you remember, um, I wonder how it would feel to sort of gently, compassionately, as if you were taking care of that person you were three few days ago, um, and just sort of go either in maybe sort of into your body, see what your body remembers from that time that it wants to bring to your consciousness right now.
This is an invitation to remember. And as I am remembering, I am noticing almost like my body's memory of being super full of stuff it needed to get rid of, with the upper respiratory thing. And also the feeling of heaviness and weariness and almost a hunger for slowness
Hmm.
that I did finally give into, by day 4 or 5 of the whole thing. Um, and why it took me so long, I don't know. Maybe it's a stubbornness.
Yeah. Yeah,
How
that
about
was your curiosity. It seems like an invitation for you to explore. Um,
uh,
can you sort of then remember the feeling of that resistance
yeah,
with the and I would say with like just the kind of love and gentleness that you would offer your directees as you remember back to that moment.
yeah. Oh, I'm imagining myself, with my calendar and my laptop and looking at the things I had scheduled and saying to myself, I can do that. That shouldn't be any problem. And for the first few days, I could kind of do that. And but probably not as well as I could have if I had just pulled back a bit. But then it was about day 4 or 5, as I said, that one morning I just said, I just need to be still. I need
Mm.
to I need to be slower for a day. And so I did. But I think, in the early days of it all, there was probably an unspoken panic within me,
Oh,
perhaps, that,
okay.
well, okay, but if I don't do the things I said I was going to do, I would just have to reschedule them. And, I don't want to let, these people down, who were depending upon me for meetings or this or that. Oh, I don't know. Why did it take me so long? Maybe I was giving in to this panic about what I felt like I had to do. And why was that? I wonder. Yeah.
You want to, yeah, just pause for a moment with that inquiry. Why was that?
Hmm.
Or does that feel like the question that's an invitation to you, or is
Well, the surface of the panic is, you know, I think of myself as a responsible person, and I'm going to show up where I said I would show up if I can. Obviously, if I were, thinking about an in-person meeting, I would not show up because I wouldn't want to compromise someone else. But if I can, do things virtually, why can't I just go ahead and plow through and pull through? Because after all, it's supposed to be mild. But even if it's mild, and that's where the deeper curiosity is, I think. It's not so much at the panic level, but um, why is it that I can have a harder time being gracious and receiving of grace for myself why is it that I can have a harder time actually showing compassion
Mm.
myself? And if I'm not doing that for myself, are there ways that I'm not as gracious as I would hope to be to the people around me? If I'm a tough taskmaster for myself, am I unknowingly and unwittingly more of a tough taskmaster for people around me than I realize and that I have faced? And that's where it gets really uncomfortable.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah.
I wonder if it'd be all right to just reverse that a little bit to if you're feeling uh, an invitation, a desire to um, be less of a tough taskmaster for yourself. If you followed that invitation, might that support your work on behalf of other people?
Of course it would.
Yeah.
And, might it also just add another layer of ease
Mm.
day to day, the normal bumps of the day to day, and maybe this just came to me, help me invite others, not just the people I serve as a spiritual director, but invite the others around me, close and even not close to my life, invite them to live with more ease.
Mm.
Hmm.
So I'm imagining, and so you tell me if I'm where I'm just imagining and where you really were. But I could imagine as the virus started to, work its way into my body, that I could imagine that the like the executive function might be struggling a little bit. I could imagine that taskmaster feeling like she was the last um uh like her job was more important than ever to hold on while this virus was
Ah, yeah,
digging in.
yeah. Hmm. That's a really different way to look at it. I hadn't thought of it that way. And of course, it's true. I mean, there's just so much going on with the body and the brain when we're trying to navigate the virus, of course. And, maybe as I felt things getting a little heavy and cloudy, I felt like, oh my gosh, I got to hold on here and make sure all of these things happen and get done, for my family and just the things that one takes care of in a day and in a week.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you've you've really shifted the lens so that I can look at myself back then, you know, 7 or so days ago, with another layer of compassion. Of course, I was trying to hang on. Maybe I could have loosened the grip a little bit and taken a breath, but I was just trying to do what I felt like had to be done. Although maybe my thinking wasn't as clear as it could have been. Huh. Hmm.
So with your now more recovered body and brain, um, what what sort of uh, guidance, support would you offer for yourself in this moment, not fully recovered? And as you look backwards, what new vantage is available to you, or what's maybe spaciousness and compassion is available now?
There's an invitation really to freedom, to recognizing that things are always, really always more than they seem, and at the same time, in another way, simpler than they seem, and that there is that invitation to just kind of take it bit by bit,
Mhm.
um, hour by hour, moment by moment. What feels right for this hour, we can honor that, but the next hour might be a little different, and that could be okay. Instead of feeling like you got to be, in the chair behind the wheel for this expansive time, and that anything less than that doesn't count. But
Mm,
to really live with more ease and more breath, and just take it as it comes, because actually that's all we can do anyway.
mm, mhm.
Yeah.
So in this moment that we're in right now, what is I wonder if you would be willing to check in with your body, check in with your taskmaster, check in with um, the sacred.
Mm. Mm. It's all okay.
Hmm.
Never perfect, but
Uh,
all okay.
What does
All
it mean to be okay? What is
yeah.
that?
You know, we're here, in this moment, in this day, and we have work before us. We have people around us. We've got things that call to us, and that's good, and it's a blessing. It's also part luck, and all of that is something that I'm really grateful for. Yeah. And in that, in what is right now, that, it's okay. Um, there's, I think, also the invitation to just not stress so much the lists before us and the tasks before us. And, for some of us, myself included, I can, at least in my mind, see not only what is on the day's list before me, but I can look ahead,
Yeah.
and start borrowing all of that. And there's some benefit to that, of course. That's part of the way we survive. But to live in that space is, I don't think, what the sacred calls us to do, and
Mm,
not the way the sacred calls us to be. So it's really, and I didn't imagine, us arriving at this spot, but it seems like really an invitation to kind of circle back and, be here now, and be attentive to who is before us and next to us and around us, and to what is going on within us,
mhm.
you know, instead of living right here, in the head, where all of those lists sometimes live, at least for me.
Yeah. And I could imagine uh, being halfway through COVID, and as you say, the if today's list isn't getting done, what is that going to do to next week's
Oh,
list,
yeah.
as you were saying, right?
Yeah.
And uh, and I could imagine how hard it would be to let go of maybe even some grief of letting go of whatever I couldn't do that day. And I'm sure I would have some emotions around um, not being able to see as far into the
Yeah.
future as makes me feel comfortable. And
Yeah, and I recognize I've recognized throughout this, and I recognize as we're talking that my experience is one of enormous privilege because, for whatever reason, I was born into the body that has been mostly pretty healthy her
mm,
whole life. And not everyone, not everyone has that.
mm,
So I'm very much aware that, my experience, it's my experience, but it's really a small subset of the whole, not just with COVID, but with other physical, abilities and challenges.
yeah, yeah. So it's a challenge you haven't faced as often as maybe
No,
other folks have faced.
no, I haven't.
Yeah,
Not yet. But, that could change any time for any one of us.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And there's an invitation there as well, to look with a wider lens and to put whatever is before us in some context, in some perspective, and just recognizing that yes, this doesn't feel good, it feels bad, all of that, but also goodness, there, my body is doing its work, it's doing what it needs to do to get back to where it was. And my goodness, what a gift that is. And I'm just thinking back through the past 5 years, and sadly how many people, um, for a lot of different reasons, didn't make it through this.
Mhm, mhm.
And it's still with us and still something that we need to navigate, sometimes when we least expect it.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
Well, I why don't we take a moment and just see, I invite you to just notice within yourself, again in the um loving presence of whatever is sacred to you. Is there anything else that's emerging or
Mhm.
this time?
Well, the word that just emerged to me, the idea that just emerged to me as you were inviting me to notice, is the word kindness.
Hmm.
Um, which honestly feels, um, how do I say this? Like something our world needs more than ever.
Mm-hmm.
I hate to say that I sense a lack of kindness in our world because I believe there is kindness all around us, but it is not the message that is being heard.
Mm-hmm.
But the word kindness, in terms of kindness to one another, kindness to, all that is living around us, and kindness to ourselves.
Yeah.
And so, kindness, the practice of kindness right now it does seem to be lacking, in our world. And that makes me very sad.
Hmm.
Yeah. And I wonder if sometimes we push ourselves unknowingly or unconsciously just as part of this overall, push and drive in our world that is not that drive is not guided by kindness
Yeah.
or inspired by kindness. So, when we are less than kind to ourselves, either through our words or our thoughts or our actions, I wonder if we're sort of unknowingly being caught up in this larger thing that I have a hard time naming right now, but this way of being that is fundamentally unkind to the earth and to each other and to people of all situations.
Yeah. And as you say that, as you hear yourself say that, how's that resonate in you? Does that
I feel the sadness of what I see, but
yeah.
it also leaves, it sort of reconnects me, at my core to the sacred, to, the holy, to life, and to what I sense is my calling, how I'm called to, what I'm called to do in the world and the way I'm called to be.
Mm. Which has something to do with kindness.
It sure does. And it also has to do with how we do or don't treat ourselves
Mm.
and the messages that, we send ourselves.
Mm.
Thank you for those invitations. I had not looked at all of this in this way at this level. This was all kind of swirling around in my head and it hadn't gotten down very deep. I've been trying to go about all of my business and such, but I knew there was a lot going on. I just hadn't named it.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. I'm glad that you uh, chose to take some time with it. Yeah. Well, as we come to the end of our time, is there anything in particular that you want to um, take with you as a touchstone or an inquiry, an invitation?
Well, I'm still thinking about that word kindness,
Mm.
and
Mhm.
I'm looking for an image of it to help remind me. And what comes to me is a tree, deeply rooted and also, reaching upward and outward at the same time. I'm thinking of a really big tree,
Mhm.
and greening with the seasons and resting in between. So I'm thinking of the kindness of trees.
Mm. Mhm. I've got a tree right out my window here with two squirrels' nests and a blue jay nest, and I just
Wow,
think about the
what great reminders.
what the kindness of that tree, right?
Mhm, absolutely. Thank
Mm.
you for that image.
Mm.
What kind of tree is it?
It's a honey locust.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Was there anything else before we come to the end of our time?
No, I'll take the tree with me.
Mm. Yeah. Thank you, Jan.
Thank you.
Well, shall we stop the recording?
Sure.
B. Let's go now to Reverend Clyde Grubbs.
I'm Clyde Grubbs, spiritual director under the name Blue Hill Spiritual Life. Human beings evolved together. That is, we became humans in community. We developed language to sing together, to speak with each other, to communicate. And in the process, we learned to ask questions about life and love, what and why. We asked about the meaning of it all. Now, the ceremonies of the community, the stories told and retold help answer many of these questions. But in time, we wanted to probe deeper. We wanted how our community's wisdom applied to a particular situation or or crisis, and we wanted to ask deep, deep questions. So we wished to solve a personal problem. So we sought out a companion for deeper conversation. Over time, the people of the village recognized that certain conversation companions were wise and helpful, good listeners, and asked good questions. Over time, human communities handed down their ways of being, their practices, their spiritual traditions. We have Taoism, Confucianism, Buddhism, Hinduism, Christianity, Judaism, Islam, and we have 1,000 plus indigenous peoples with their unique and deep spiritual traditions that have constantly influenced who we are today. All these ways of tending the spirit nurtured people who wanted to immerse themselves in the wisdom of their tradition or a spiritual tradition that they had discovered and wanted to explore. They often sought out a wise person, an elder, a spiritual guide, a person who helped them in conversations about their spiritual life. All this was helpful. Let's call these spiritual guides, spiritual companions, spiritual directors. All these are different names that we use for this idea of the person that we went to talk to about deep problems. Let's call the ancientness of these joining in conversations is important to recognize this. This is not something that started uh, 10 years ago or 20 years ago, the spiritual directors. It goes back a long time. There's an ancientness in joining in conversations, this seeking. And there's also a depth that developed through the practice of many, many generations. So that what we're looking at becoming a spiritually deeper, and more centered. In particular, guided by a particular spiritual tradition or open to the insights of many different wisdom communities. For Unitarian Universalists, it is important to state there are many traditions, each with powerful insights, and it's possible to be in develop spiritual experiences outside of your own particular parental tradition. We know that. I'm guided myself by the Cherokee spiritual understanding that we live in a world that's like a big deerskin stretched between the stars. And we walk upon that deerskin, we live on a deerskin, that deerskin is constantly moving and shuffling and pulling this way and that, like walking on a trampoline. We experience ourselves as seeking balance in this unstable world. We've been thrown off in this direction, thrown off in that direction. We seek to center ourselves so that we can walk across the deerskin in stability. Many things throw us off, conflicts between and in the family, troubles in the world, setbacks in our work, destabilizing and demanding our awareness. We seek to renew our sense of balance within the spiritual tradition that informs us and feeds us. And in the sense that when we talk to our spiritual guide, our spiritual companion, we're doing that. We're seeking balance again in the world in which we live and move and have our being. So these are the ideas that inform my work as a spiritual companion. I'm quite often informed that we want to talk because we bring the problem into the conversation at the beginning of the time together. So it's not like I plan it out half an hour before the call. Sometimes it emerges in the conversation, the question that is going to be asked, and sometimes it takes deep, deep time in the conversation, 20 minutes or so, and then you say, this is what we're going to talk about. Sometimes the questions emerge in time, and sometimes the questions emerge later. Sometimes the For me, the spiritual director doesn't direct. We are companions to seekers who find their own direction. Questions asked help, but it's the seeker who must find direction. Many of the seekers that I consult seek to find a path that involves resistance to the powers that be. The domination system is called by many names: racism, colonialism, capitalism, and patriarchy. They seek to ask how I can remain balanced and centered in a life denying culture in this integrity challenging juncture of human history. A spirituality of resistance, at the same time, seeking change, seeking love. Spiritual questions emerge in the lives we live and in times they present themselves. It is good to seek companions and to ponder the challenges and anxieties we live in these times. We are living in these times.
Hey, I'm Reverend Patriot Toms, and I live in Westchester County on the land of the Lenape. Greetings to all my relatives, and I am uh, providing spiritual direction. I'm also the minister at Unitarian Universalist Congregation in Central Nassau. There you go. Okay.
So I'm Clyde Grubbs, and I'm spiritual director with under the name Blue Hill Spiritual Life. And this is Petra. Petra, will you tell us about yourself?
Okay. I'm Reverend Patriot Toms, and I live in Westchester County on the land of the Lenape. Greetings to all my relatives, and I am uh, providing spiritual direction. I'm also the minister at Unitarian Universalist Congregation in Central Nassau, um, located in Garden City. And spiritual direction is really a beautiful vehicle for ministers and others in order to be able to connect with one's own spiritual life and provide facilitation for others to be with them spiritually, to hold a mirror to them spiritually, for people to be able to discuss where they are, where their heart is at, where their spirit is at, how they see themselves, how they look to grow themselves in their life. And there's so much that spirit does impact and can teach us if we take the time to listen and to lean into it. One can certainly do spiritual practices on their own and also with someone who's a spiritual director to offer some guidance. We're not counseling them, we're not therapists, but we are spiritually journeying with them. Um, and in that sense, providing support.
The Reverend Petra Toms is a minister who's also trained as a spiritual director. In the following conversation, we will begin just after she has shared the details of a directee's traumatic childhood experience. The conversation illustrates how the Reverend Dr. Clyde Grubbs supports Reverend Petra in her ministry. Note how silence and brief questions can be a powerful aspect of spiritual companionship.
Petra,
Yes.
how's been the last few weeks with you? How's it been going?
There have been some challenges, especially given the particular climate that we are in. I think that has really impacted people, um, with how they are feeling. Their concerns are certainly heightened given the political environment that we're in, and it's impacted them in terms of also how they feel about themselves personally. And so there may be those who are suffering with depression, or those who feel traumatized by something in particular. And I think this atmosphere has helped to heighten those realities.
You want to tell me more?
Well, so I will say I have, and just reviewing with her how deeply this was upsetting to her. It's interesting because sometimes those ghosts from our childhood traumas live on in us and still impact. If there is some way that we can speak to it, or in some way that we can get someone to acknowledge that this harm has taken place, that this should never have happened, and that she, as a whole person, should have been protected at all times, especially when she was being made so vulnerable. Um, I think I would ask her, I'm sure I'll hear from her again regarding this, if she was able to tell anybody at that time how upset she was and what had taken place, and if any apology was offered to her at that time, um, and what does she feel that she needs now, I think, because clearly for over 80 something years, she has lived with this in her mind and carried it in her heart. And it's been very difficult for her. Yeah.
You're a minister.
Yes.
You do all kinds of rituals.
Yes.
Sometimes do you think the rituals help people express?
I yes, I think, the rituals are really designed for us to alleviate something within us, to acknowledge something, to acknowledge a blessing, or to alleviate a hurt or a wound that we may be carrying. And it may be, a laying on of hands. It may be, something else that we could discuss together that that would work for her in her mindset, that would make her feel um, heard and valued and respected. Something that would speak to what she would want. So I think that she's certainly been, a very strong church person over the years. And perhaps we can devise something together and then perhaps include members of a circle to be able to make that happen, either laying on of hands or, something with water to wash away, the pain and the hurt that she's experienced. Rituals, are we create rituals for those issues, for those types of situations.
She's never really said goodbye to this experience.
Exactly. She has not.
So,
It lingers, yes.
so how goes the spirit
Mm,
with you?
yes. In hearing this, just really wanting to provide her with what she should have had years ago, um, but recognizing this is where she is now, and so what adjustment can we make to hear her, to act, to allow her to go through in bringing closure to this, something that she feels would meet her in this moment. And I think partnering with her in this way would be part of a spiritual direction journey for her given this particular scenario.
So your ministry is going well.
Yes, yes. It's, you know, ministry, especially in these times, sometimes I think it sharpens our view about justice issues. It sharpens our view about our Unitarian Universalist values and how we want to be able to provide equity and generosity and bring in pluralism so all the voices are heard, um, and recognize our interdependence and allow ourselves and support others in transformation. And all of that is, part of love. And I think that that is, the core of where we are and what we're about.
It's go well. It goes well with you then.
It goes well. Yes.
That's a
Thank you
good.
for that.
Thank you both for providing such an interesting look into how to support a minister in their own work with their congregation. And now we're going to move on to two more spiritual directors with the Reverend Duhart being the spiritual director in this setting, and the Reverend Tandy Rogers, the seeker. And I'd like you to pay attention to how the big questions are sometimes asked in spiritual direction, as well as how movement can be incorporated. Once again, each session is different and uniquely tailored to each of the seekers, and we hope here to be showing you a variety of ways that spiritual direction can happen.
So this is our first time in being together, and I'd like to begin with just one or two questions. Is that okay?
Please.
Yes. Please tell me, what is the word or words that you use to name that which is larger than yourself? Some people say God, spirit, universe. What would you use?
Mostly God, mostly God. Yeah. I grew up Christian. And so when it's just my time with the divine, God comes very easily. Mhm.
Yes. I love how you're using your hand when it's my time with the God. Like it's pretty private here, huh? You and just God.
Well, it feels like sometimes spiritual direction feels like a little blanket fort with God. Like I get to just curl up with her and just like have some quiet time. Yeah.
I just heard you say her. So
Mhm.
your God is a she.
Yes.
Okay. And you use the word Christian. What does that word mean for you? I'd like to know.
Oh gosh, that's changing so much.
Okay.
And actually, Pastor Duhart, I might have tears about it. I feel protective of it in today's world because it's used um, but is such a weapon. And my childhood Christianity, in my childhood Christianity, Jesus was my best friend. He was like my imaginary best friend. And easy conversations with him. I grew up on a lake that I really felt God there easily. And then I would go to church and it would be this political hypocrisy. And I knew that I needed to leave in order to preserve my relationships with the divine. And I have a lot of sadness about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, as best as you can feel it, this container that we're creating is a place that you can talk about your sadness and a place that you can bring what of that woundedness that is left. And we've already begun to be intentional with your sense of God. But I'd like to back up just a little bit. How might we create a more full container. Might we begin in prayer? I have a candle here that we can light. We can hold some silence. What seems right for you, or maybe something else you would choose?
Um, I know something about me, and this is why I chose you. I thought maybe I should work with Pastor you. Is I know that I can be in my head a little too much. I sometimes have trouble identifying my emotions. I have an emotions wheel, a feelings wheel that I refer to, but I also have trouble connecting with my body. And so, slowing me down to breathe. I'm not exactly sure what somatics are, but I know you do. And somebody said, you might want to try something like that.
Well, I'm glad that you've done some research about what I can bring to this holy table, so thank you for that. Well, I invite us into a moment of just feeling our feet on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
Just feeling your feet on the ground. And for a moment, just say, thank you, feet. Thank you. And allow your hips to sink down into your chair. There's nothing for your hips to carry. And if it's available to you, move your hands to your lap and open them. There's nothing that you need to hold in this moment, Tandy. Relax your shoulders down and allow your back to rest on the chair if you can. And as you breathe, just let go. Notice where there's tension in the body and breathe it out and inhale relaxation. Breathe out tension and maybe even tenderness. And breathe in relaxation. And notice your face, its beauty, its shape. Notice your ears and your eyes. Say hello to that beautiful face and the smile that you just offered. Say hello and invite your face just to relax. Nothing to say, nothing to see, nothing external to you to hear. And in our brief conversation, you mentioned that you grew up on a lake. I invite you to just imagine that lake in your body. Imagine that lake. If you're going to place that beautiful lake somewhere in you, where would you put it? Where would you put that lake?
From my feet to my knees, I'd be standing in it.
Okay. What temperature is that water?
It's really cold.
Really cold. What color is the water?
A really, really deep blue.
A really, really deep blue. Who lives or what lives in that water?
Little snails and little minnows. And farther out, big fish.
Big fish. All right. What else would you like to tell me about this lake that you are personally connected to?
It's one of the shallowest lakes of the Great Lakes. And so she gets stormy real quick. So you have to respect her. There's beautiful sunsets. And you can watch the storms come in. It's amazing.
It's amazing. You have already shared with me that you have some sadness about your experience of Christianity as a younger person. This sadness that lives in you, what if, Tandy, what if the waves could wash some of that sadness away? this old lake, large, big, older than Christianity. What would it wash away?
Mm. Well, I've got a craving. When you said, where does it live? I kept it up to my knees.
Okay.
But what if I just like ran right in
Okay.
and just like let it disrupt and take back?
Okay. Invite us to rise. Okay, I'm going to tilt my screen up so I can see you.
Yeah.
And imagine yourself running. Because the body knows that trauma is in there. Let's run into the lake and like make a big splash.
Oh, splash, yes. Hmm.
What happened?
Well, that just feels like baptism.
In Christian language, being born again into the
Yeah.
company of God.
Yeah.
So you and your God are together in this big lake being
Mhm.
licked by the waves of God.
Mm.
There's something very sensuous about that.
Yes.
Trauma lives in the body. You may know the book entitled The Body Knows, The Body Keeps Score. So that trauma that you have held, feels like for a long time, is still somewhere. Tanya, would it be okay if I put some of that sadness that you talked about into
Yes.
this flame holds a bit of your sadness, some of the woundedness that you still carry, the woundedness of the world. It carries your neurodivergent body self, the warmth of your smile, the flicker of the blue chilled water in your eyes. We send this out to the world. For you, for me, for God that is she, and for all others who identify in that way. Go in peace until we next meet again.
Thank
May
you
you
so
find more peace.
Thank you, Pastor Duhart.
Thank you.
And to you who are watching today, we hope that this gives you a taste of this practice, which can support you in connecting more deeply with yourself, your world, and your own sense of the sacred.
We hope that you have found this introduction to spiritual direction helpful. And I'm guessing that you may have heard some other similar terms and you're wondering how spiritual direction might be similar or different from them. So, starting with spiritual direction, you've heard many definitions of spiritual direction in this video, as well as seeing some examples. But we like to think of it as being ongoing. When you meet with a spiritual director, you often meet monthly, sometimes more often, for quite a bit of time. Some people have been with their spiritual director for years and years. Some people meet for a shorter period of time. It also has a component of deep listening. I consider this holy listening and having this space and time to go to every month to really have someone hold you, listen deeply, to help me make meaning out of life and for me to find the mystery in life and connect to that. You may also have heard of pastoral care, and the way that that may feel different is that it might feel a bit more casual in that you might set up a meeting with your minister or another religious professional for more of a short-term care. Although there's still definitely holy listening in these sessions, it's more of a check-in and getting resources, maybe helping you through a very difficult time. And sometimes the resources can be a way to continue the work that is done in pastoral care. You may have also heard of pastoral or mental health counseling, and this is really usually very formal, and it's often solution oriented. Perhaps you bring a particular problem for a therapeutic, spiritual, or well being way of dealing with the issue. You may have heard the word chaplaincy or chaplain. And a chaplain is usually in a very formal setting of some kind of medical or institutional setting. So perhaps you've met a chaplain in a hospital, or perhaps they've met with someone you know in a nursing care facility, or sometimes we have chaplains at meetings, we have chaplains at GA to meet with you about some particular situation you're going through. It's usually somewhat short term or not generally as ongoing as spiritual direction. You may have heard of spiritual coaching too. I think that's somewhat of a newer term. And this is considered a formal setting as well, where you meet with a coach to meet a goal of yours. So perhaps you have something you're trying to wrestle out and you'd like to get to a certain place and attain that goal, then you might want to look at a spiritual coach. I think you can also often get through there through spiritual direction, but if you know you want to get to a certain place and you have a goal, then maybe spiritual coaching would be the choice. I hope you've seen how broad and deep spiritual direction can be, and I hope you consider it. It has certainly been an anchor in my life for over 10 years.
So, as we come to the end of our time together, I invite you to notice, how has this been for you? How are you feeling right now? A lot of spiritual direction is led by your desire. And so I invite you to notice, is there any longing in yourself right now? What is your spirit yearning for? Maybe that yearning is quiet, or maybe it's quite loud and insistent. I also invite you to notice any resistance in yourself to what you've heard, what you've experienced. That's helpful to notice too. Resistance is a powerful source of energy in the psyche. And is there anything that feels like an invitation from our time together today? I'd like to take a moment now, if you want, and pause to reflect or journal or make art with these questions about holy longing, resistance, and invitation.
Thank you for taking a moment to just pause and notice. Pausing and noticing is a wonderful gift. It's a tool of spiritual direction. To pause as your spirit moves, to notice how it is with your spirit, to notice your resistance, the tension, notice the desires that rise and any invitation that is emerging. To just rest in being. And then when it's time to do, you'll know, especially if you're listening to spirit. Do as the spirit says do. But mostly it's resting and noticing. And as you do so, we give you this blessing. May this pause be a soft landing for your breath, your bones, your being. May you notice what lifts and lightens, the quiet joy, the unexpected ease. May you name what weighs and withers, the ache, the absence, the unraveling. And in the space in between, may the Spirit speak in a gentle invitation toward deeper love, truer self, and the next faithful step.
Thank you for engaging with the spiritual directors from the UU Spiritual Direction Network. If you'd like to learn more about these people and many more who are Unitarian Universalist related spiritual directors, guides, mentors, go to uusdn.org. And there you will be able to review the spiritual directors that are listed there, and you'll be able to read bios of each of them. Often there's a photo, there's a little bit about their background and kind of how they hold space for people. When you find one that resonates with you, go ahead and contact them. In their bio, they usually say either we'll talk by Zoom or phone to get to know one another a little bit to see if this is how you'd like to move forward. And for those of you who are religious professionals, you may find that your professional development funds can be used. Many, many people use it that way. Spiritual direction is open to everyone. Once again, whether you are new to being a Unitarian Universalist, or maybe you've been one lifelong, but just now you feel a yearning to delve into your own spiritual life. We welcome you to look at our website. We are all volunteers to the network. We do spiritual direction as either part-time or full-time as our vocation. And so, of course, there is a charge for working with a spiritual director, but look in their bios, you'll see a range, and use that as part of your determining factor. But know that each spiritual director, once you talk to them, you can work out those details. Blessings to all of you, and we wish you all the best as you navigate these times. And we hope that you can hold a spiritual center that guides you in your daily life. May it be so.